Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We will be starting soon, so feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat while we wait. A few housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted. You can access closed captioning in your settings. Microphones and videos are off. There will be a Q&A session after the presentations, so submit any questions and comments using the Q&A function. And we will start soon, just giving a few minutes for everyone to get in. Probably will start in about 2 minutes. Okay, I think we can get started now. So go ahead, Darren, next slide. Oh, hello everyone. Welcome to the November SB 1383 chat with CalRecycle. This month, we will be focusing on the procurement of recovered organic waste products. We know that procurement can be a significant challenge for many jurisdictions. So today we're thrilled to have presenters sharing strategies for addressing some of these challenges. My name is Arti Lal, and I'm your facilitator. I'm a senior environmental scientist in the local assistance and market development branch of CalRecycle, and I assist our branch with providing guidance on SB 1383 procurement. This chat was organized by Diana Suarez Arguelles, who will be assisting in the background. Also assisting in the background with questions is Heather Williams from our statewide technical and analytical resources branch. Introducing our presenters today will be Annie Leo, Morgan Steinke, Kathleen Strictly, Adeline Gonzalez, Mallory Burden, and Ben Johnson. Zach Smith will be leading our Q&A session towards the end. Darren Sprecher and Chris Bria are providing technical support. And last but not least, our branch chief, Marshall Graham, who I will now pass it on to for announcements.
Ooh, fantastic. Thank you so much. And welcome to our 8th chat with CalRecycle this year, covering 1383. We cover topics on contamination, monitoring, capacity planning, multiple edible food recovery, program updates. We've also dealt with enforcement, had folks share about implementation record success. And again, today we'll be talking about procurement. But this engagement really is only possible from our collective and consistent collaboration. And this enables us in local assistance to really provide relevant compliance assistance and leverage all that we're learning in the implementation of SB 1383. With that, again, the topic today will be the focusing on SB 1383, specifically recovered organic waste product procurement. And most of you are likely aware that we will be implementing in the coming year we'll be implementing many new laws in the coming year, but specific to procurement and to local government. CalRecycle is internally reviewing all newly signed bills and determining next steps. So specific to AB 2346, as well as AB 2902, those won't take effect until January 1 of 2025. And in the new year, we'll have more concrete guidance for local jurisdictions with respect to next steps and anticipated regulatory timelines. So as usual, these and other topics will be coming forward for future chats in one form or another. And with that, I'm excited to learn together.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Marshall. Darren, next slide. I now want to go over a couple of logistical items that's related to our question and answer session at the end. So for this webinar, we will be using the Q&A function. Please type a summary of your question into the Q&A pane. You can use the chat pane to share information or resources with other participants, but please do not put your questions in the chat. We will not be monitoring the chat for questions. If you do not see the Q&A pane, please make sure that you have the most updated version of Zoom. You may also need to click on the 3 dots to be able to see the Q&A pane. My colleagues and I will be filtering through your questions. Once called upon, please unmute yourself and state your name, affiliation, and restate your question. If your question is geared toward a specific panelist, please note that. We will also be monitoring our SLCP inbox throughout the chat. You may send peer share requests, feedback, and panelist questions to slcp.organics@calrecycle.ca.gov. Use the subject line SB 1383 chat with CalRecycle. If you cannot unmute yourself or are unable to use the Q&A pane, please also submit those questions to the SLCP inbox. If we do not get to your questions during the Q&A session, we will have your LAMB representative get back to you in a timely manner. Next slide. Our presenters today will be Orange County, Kern County, and Recycle Smart with Central Contra Costa Solid Waste Authority, discussing how they're meeting their procurement targets. We also invited representatives from Los Angeles County Sanitation District, Valinor Energy, Vespine Energy, and Savannah Bioenergy to provide a brief overview of the procurement compliance attributes they offer. This supports our efforts to assist jurisdictions in meeting their procurement targets. Please note the presenters are from external organizations and the information being shared is as a courtesy. CalRecycle does not guarantee the accuracy or suitability of the information for any particular purpose, nor does it endorse these organizations. I will now pass it over to Annie Leo to introduce our first presenter.
Thank you, Arti. Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to introduce Robert Sedita, the Reporting and Program Support Manager for Orange County. Robert has been in local government for over 15 years, working for various cities within Orange County, until coming to Orange County Waste and Recycling in 2021 as the Reporting and Program Support Manager. As the Reporting and Program Support Manager, he oversees SB 1383, reporting, strategic projects, legislative affairs, and real estate units for OC Waste and Recycling. Take it away, Robert.
Hey, thank you, Annie, and thank you everyone for joining, and glad to be here. Wanted to just start off, again, I'm Robert Sedita, Reporting and Program Support Manager for OCWR, and want to touch on our program and the regional approach we are taking to not just only meeting our procurement requirement, but the jurisdictions within Orange County's procurement requirements as well. So next slide. So just a little bit about Orange County and OCWR. We oversee 20 closed landfills, 3 active landfills, and with the passage of 1383, established greenery locations at each of our active landfill sites. So the oldest and first one was Bee Canyon Greenery, located at our FR Bowerman site. This was established in 2020 and is about 30 acres in size. Capistrano Greenery at our Prima de Secha landfill opened in 2021 and is about 15 acres in size. And our Valencia Greenery at Alinda Alpha landfill opened in 2023. It is about 12 acres in size. Combined, we're able to accept about 1,200 tons of feedstock per day for our granary operations. We're going to be looking to expand that with the overall goal of being able to take all organic waste that's generated within Orange County to be processed within Orange County to create that regional circular economy where everything that's generated here is recycled here and then reused within the county. Next slide. So it's all of our material is curbside residential green waste. We do get manure and horse bedding from our equestrian facilities and residual food waste, and it's all pre-processed by the time it hits our sites for processing. We started off kind of slow with our building of our facilities, and we wanted to make sure that when we did have finished material available, it was certified and we were able to provide the testing requirements to make sure that we were fitting everyone's needs. So all of our material, which is compost and composted mulch, has the seal of testing assurance from the U.S. Composting Council, and that was one of the key things that we wanted before we even started the outflow of any material. And that started with our bulk material. So we offered it for compost giveaways, jurisdictions. But since then, we've also procured bagging machines at all of our facilities. So we now offer bag material to jurisdictions, landscapers, contractors, and also wattles. And the wattles have been extremely popular lately, especially as we move up into the rainy season. And we're also partnering with agencies on areas that have just been affected by wildfires for irrigation and flood control. So we are offering these three products from all of our facilities. Next slide. But wanted to kind of touch on the meat of this kind of regional approach that we're doing. We're a government agency, we're an enterprise fund, but in this new kind of endeavor, we're transitioning our business model from landfilling to organics recycling and also the outflow material. So we were looking at more of a business approach. So we started small with countywide giveaways and working towards kind of building that foundation to not just test the material, but establish those partnerships that are needed in order to kind of keep the material outflow coming and keeping the feedstock coming in that's needed for the operations as well. Through those initial kind of steps, we were able to standardize our operating processes. And that was one of the key things, working with our FIBU staff on record keeping, reporting, transactions, receipts, everything that's needed for CalRecycle procurement requirements, but also streamlining and finding efficiencies when we can. We're a cost recovery organization, so we want to make sure that our costs are as low as possible. So that's making sure that we have the efficiencies in place. And that kind of all goes into those partnerships. And the partnership portion, I'm going to cover a little bit more in depth, but partnerships are key to this regional approach that we're looking at to make sure that we are working with not just the jurisdictions within the county, but also the other organizations, the nonprofits, the conservancy agencies, the state agencies, and also our neighboring jurisdictions that we may be the closest organic operations to them to procure material from for 1383 requirements. And kind of as we grew our program, one of the key aspects that we kind of sat on was like the business approach. It's that targeted outreach. We've built the foundation. Now we need to start building those partnerships, getting that word of mouth that our material is good, it meets all testing certifications, and how you could effectively use that. So one thing that our team did was we've scoured business licenses throughout the county, looking for landscapers that either worked or operated or were housed within the county of Orange. With our strategic communications team, we developed flyers and postcards that were mailed out to all of them in English and Spanish, notifying them of our operations, how they could procure material from us, and ways to ask questions and get any testing certifications that were needed if they did need specific nutrition requirements for the applications that they were utilizing for. We also expanded that as we grew to HOAs and property management companies, having meet and greets with the cemetery districts, golf courses, also our large scale event venues. So we've had talks with the Anaheim Ducks and their major projects and renovations that they have going at their facility to see different ways that they could use the material, but also it benefits not only us, but them, because especially with the Olympics coming in LA in 2028, they're looking for all this recycled material usage and ways to tell the story about how we're creating circular economies. So We've had conversations with all of our partner agencies and organizations about our material and the ways to not just utilize it, but also tell the story and help tell the story of how it's all being recycled and reused within the county. But with all this material leaving, we have to have some type of system in place for scheduling and also tracking. So I'll go into a little bit more later. But we had to build out and develop a request system, able to track and make sure that we have material on hand. It's one of the things that we strive by is making sure that we don't turn anyone away that's wanting our material. So having the request system allows us to effectively judge the material and the requests to make sure we have enough on hand. And with that is the continued expansion of our greeneries and the update in our permits, because in the end, we want to make sure that all organic waste that's generated in the county stays in the county and is processed in the county. So it's making sure that our facility permits have the required capacity to take in all that waste when the time is needed. So next slide. So moving to our request system. So this was something that we've built out. We launched it last year. Or it's almost been a full year now, so not even a full year. But it allows residents, businesses, jurisdictions, anyone that wants our material to go onto our website, select which site they want to pick up from, a date, a time, if they're working with a jurisdiction, the type of material they're looking for, and the use of the material. So we're able to, number one, track accordingly, but also see the amount of material that's being utilized in different jurisdictions and help with jurisdictional requirements by allocating that tonnage to those specific jurisdictions. This enables us to not only manage the flow of material, but also allow for pickups depending on the flow of material. So we get a lot of requests from haulers that are going to backhaul for jurisdictional procurement targets, but also for their giveaways. And if we know we're having a lot of pickups from haulers or jurisdictions a certain day, we'll limit the number of residential pickups on that day. So I make sure that we're not having a bottleneck, but also make sure that we do have enough material, not only at our compost granaries for our bulk pickups, but also our residential pickups. And with that, with the residential side, we've established residential pickup locations at 2 of our granary locations now, and the 3rd will be open at the end of the year. We call them bunkers, but a space where it has the compost and the composted mulch. So whenever a resident needs it, they could go and schedule a time and go pick it up during operational hours, any day of the year. So as long as we're open, they're able to go in and pick up material to meet their needs and their uses, but also help the jurisdictions meet their needs as well. Next slide. So, and as I mentioned, partnerships are key to making this regional approach successful. So this is just highlighting some of the jurisdictions that we're currently working with, but we're currently working with 33 out of 34 jurisdictions within the County of Orange. We're working with a number of the water districts. We're working with Caltrans, conservation agencies. I think we're up to 40 jurisdictions in all within Orange County and also neighboring cities that are outside of the county that are procuring material from us. We're also working with over 20 landscape companies, large-scale landscape companies. And in building this regional approach and these partnerships, one of the key things that we try to do is when we're getting a request from a landscaper or a contractor or a hauler, one of the things that we do ask when they're making their reservation is, are you currently working for a jurisdiction? Where's the project taking place? And if there's any 1383 requirements that are being met by the procurement that they're doing. If they say that they're working in a specific city, but not having it tied to a 1383 procurement target, we will then reach out directly to that city's recycling coordinator, let them know, hey, X company is picking up from us. They said that they're not associated with the city for 1383 targets. Are you interested in taking this procurement for your targeted procurement target? If they say yes, we'll link them together. If they want to establish an agreement or anything, it's up to them. But then we'll be able to go through in our system and tag that contractor to that city. And then whenever they're leaving the site, that material is being allocated towards that jurisdiction's procurement targets. So the city of Yorba Linda is a great one to kind of showcase. They've started a giveaway program within the city utilizing our material. And by was it early October, they already met all their 1383 procurement target requirements just from their giveaway program that they've established using our material within their jurisdiction. So a lot of the other jurisdictions are doing similar. but also partnering with the water districts, school districts, and everyone else, and making sure that everyone's tied in to the procurement that's taking place. So it's beneficial to everyone in meeting their procurement targets in the end. Next slide. But as we all know with 1383, record keeping is a big portion of what we need to do. So we wanted to make sure that we had a robust record keeping system with checks and balances in place. So in addition to the residential side, I mentioned we do allow pickups directly from our facilities. So it's my team will go through, and if we do have a hauler, a landscaper, a contractor, a jurisdiction that's wanting continuous bulk pickups, they'll get issued an open pass. That allows them to come into our fee booths, show the pass, drive directly to the greenery. They'll get loaded, and on the time that they weigh out, they'll provide the pass back, and it'll be entered into our paradigm system where it'll say the account. So whoever's picking up, either the contractor's name, the jurisdiction, or the hauler's name, their account number, the city that they're picking up for, the date, time, weight, and any other specific notes that we have for that order. Those are then reconciled and then sent out to each jurisdiction on a monthly basis. So that way that jurisdiction is able to keep tabs monthly on how they're working towards their procurement targets, because a lot of times the jurisdiction may not know everyone that's coming to the facility. So that's one reason why we're in constant contact with the recycling coordinators to let them know who's entering and who's leaving the facility and potentially procuring or not procuring on their behalf that they could be working with. Because in our mind, it's while we have our own procurement targets as the county unincorporated area, we want to make sure that we're making sure that everyone's reaching and having their procurement targets being obtainable from our organics operations. So next slide. So, and with this, there's always successes. And I know I've touched on a few of them, but I wanted to touch on a few more. And looking at those different partnerships and uses of the material is key. It's, again, within Orange County, we're limited on any other procurement products other than compost and mulch, just because of the limited infrastructure for renewable gas and energy that's made from 1383 procurement systems. So we've partnered with our fire authority and our public works department to do wattle giveaways for those that are affected by wildfires and floods from rain events. The giveaways are helpful to all jurisdictions. And again, with the various products that we're able to offer, they're able to pick and choose what works best for their needs. But it is those partnerships with those conservancy organizations. Like right now, we're working with the Irvine Ranch Conservancy, and we've just met with UC Ag to look at different ways that we could not only test our material, but showcase our material. And it's one of those photos on the bottom right of the screen with the flowers to showcase the water efficiency, not the growth differences. So we'll set up 2 plots at some of these sites where you're able to see kind of apples to apples on what grows better with mulch and what doesn't grow better with mulch. And then we're able to use that in our marketing efforts for our product. And you see the tomato and the avocado on the screen as well. These are residents that have taken our material and actually won awards at the Orange County Fair for the size and the quality of the produce that they're growing utilizing our material. So it's a big partnership and a team effort to make this regional approach successful. And being able to showcase all these successes just helps to continue to build that program. And it's continuing to look at those different avenues to utilize that material. We've worked with our CEO real estate's office to make sure that within our agreements for county property, that use of material that's 1383 approved is done for those projects, and that records are being kept and sent to us with county facilities and county contracts, making sure that 1383 procurement language is included in that as well, and utilization of Orange County waste and recycling products to make sure that we're not only having the outflow, but working to meet procurement requirements as well. And it's that consistent out of the box thinking of different ways to either modify parks programs where we're mulching on a 6-month basis rather than a 2-year basis. Because one thing with our material that's also helpful is it's free. Any jurisdiction, any contractor, anyone that wants our material, it's currently free of charge to anybody. So that helps not only build the program, but makes it obtainable for jurisdictions to help meet their requirements, because it's not having that extra cost that's associated with also having to purchase material and then find a place for it. So it's helping to offset those unfunded portions of the procurement targets that everyone's having to deal with right now. So next slide. And this kind of gets into the final kind of stage of where we're at. We've kind of set that base, set that foundation, but to continue to grow to make that circular economy within Orange County. And one thing that we have with all the jurisdictions within the County of Orange is waste disposal agreements, WDAs. Well, those we're currently working to transition into waste infrastructure system enhancement agreements. This is kind of the next phase of growing our organization, but our systems within the county to meet the needs of everyone's procurement targets. So right now, all of our facilities are operating on windrow composting. So it takes a lot of area, takes a lot of time. Through the WISE agreement and the next phases, these will move to covered aerated static piles, so cask systems. Allows us to take on more material and have a quicker turnaround time for the finished material. That then will follow with SSO and working with our waste districts, our wastewater districts, to bring them organic waste for processing and conversion to energy at their facilities. And then it'll conclude with us establishing our own AD or anaerobic digestion facilities at our sites so that we're able to then take the organic material, process it, have not only the organic compost and mulch, but also the renewable energy that then we could provide to jurisdictions as well. And it's one added benefit to this as well that we're currently talking with all the city managers about is while there's always going to be a tip fee, no matter where you take it. If organic waste is brought to our facilities, yes, there's that initial tip fee. But then if you're going to be taking that finished product out, we're working to establish a rebate program where a jurisdiction would be able to get, per se, 85% of that tip fee back on the material tonnage that they're taking for procurement requirements to not only help bolster their 1383 procurement activities, but also help meet other 1383 targets and additional funding for other organics and recycling projects that they're wanting to tackle. So it's a regional approach, trying to create that circular economy within the county while helping all jurisdictions meet their procurement targets as easily as possible. And while having that added benefit of allowing the rebate for those that are wanting to not only bring us organic waste, but take the finished product to then have that additional revenue back to help push forward the 1383 guidelines within their jurisdiction and helping to meet their procurement targets and their procurement needs. So I think I'm about out of time. So next slide. So again, my information's there. Also, Ophelia Velarde Garcia is on my team. She leads our marketing development side for our composting and our reservation process. So feel free to contact us if you have any questions or even interested in procuring any material from us. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert, for that very insightful presentation. All right, with that, I will go ahead and introduce myself as well as the next speakers. My name is Morgan Steinke, and I am the local assistance representative for Kern County, as well as some Northern LA jurisdictions. And with that, I'll introduce our next speaker, Dave Lee, who is the Public Works Manager for Kern County's Public Works Department in the Solid Waste Division. He currently manages their gatehouse operations, permitting and compliance of the county's landfills and transfer stations, stormwater monitoring and reporting, state data reporting, and portions of SB 1383 implementation and compliance. Other duties include developing CEQA documents, preparing air permitting documents, and managing the department's habitat conservation plan. Dave has been with the department since 2003. I would like to note that alongside Dave today is his colleague, Christine Williamson, and she's going to help answer some of your questions on the back end. So with that, Dave, you can go ahead and take it away.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Morgan, for the kind introduction. I appreciate it. As Morgan had mentioned, Christine Williamson, my colleague, is on the back end as well, so she'll be able to answer questions as needed at the end of the presentation. But yes, again, my name is Dave Lee, Public Works Manager, been with Kern County Public Works since 2003. Next slide, please. So Kern County, we don't often get a chance too frequently to showcase what we're doing on some of these presentations. So first, I want to thank CalRecycle for the invitation, talking about our air curtains and what you'll see a little bit, over the next 15, 20 minutes here. But I did want to provide a little bit of background on unincorporated Kern County. Based on our 2023 EAR, our unincorporated population is around 303,000. That does continue to grow year by year. As operators of record, we have 7 regional landfills and 8 transfer stations where we serve all of the residents of Kern County, including the incorporated cities as well. So we are very familiar with operations, both landfill, disposal, recycling, recovery. So we have a multitude of solid waste facilities spanning throughout our Kern County boundaries. As some of you may know, Kern County is a very large county. It spans almost 8,200 square miles, which is a large area. I know we do have some other county representatives here in jurisdictions that have that area. So yeah, just kind of give a little background for there. Next slide, please. I want to provide just a little visual representation of Kern County. Just like many other jurisdictions on this call, we do have some unique geographical features within the county that make it a little bit difficult when it comes to 1383 implementation and recovery of organics. We have the eastern side of the county, which is basically high desert, areas of Ridgecrest, Cal City, Boron, Mojave, and Roseman, which are obviously flat desert areas. We have the mountainous areas of Kern Valley, Lake Isabella, Tehachapi, Fraser Park, Lebec. Those are all areas that come with their own unique challenges for collection and processing. And then on the western side, we do have the bulk of the metropolitan population here in Bakersfield. And we do have areas out in the Western Valley, such as Taft and Maricopa. And even up to the Northwest regions, we have a lot of the farming and agricultural operations going on, Delano, McFarland, Shafter. So as you can see, we are a very wide, long, big county, a lot of transportation, a lot of logistics when it comes to our organics handling and our 1383 procurement targets. Next slide, please. So for our procurement targets, based on AB 1985, where that drawdown occurred, 2023, our target was around 7,600 tons. And for this coming year, it is close to 17,000 tons at the 65%. Happy to say that we've already exceeded our 2024 target. And in fact, we've already met our 2025 target of 100%. Mostly from the use of mulch and compost, and I'll get to that on our next slide. So most of our procurement does come from that 1-to-1 or 1-to-5-8 ratio for mulch and compost. And this year in 2024, this will be the first time we're actually using electricity from biomass as part of having us reach that procurement goal. And that's what the rest of my presentation will be on. Next slide, please. All right, just a real quick with our compost, we're procuring from a regional compost facility, and currently we are actually building a 100,000 ton composting facility at our Shafter Wasco Recycling and Sanitary Landfill with the help of a CalRecycle grant. That should be coming online around June or July of this year. But most of the compost is used at our county-owned landfills and properties, erosion control, fire remediation, site beautification, a wide variety of things that most other jurisdictions and other associations are using compost for. Our mulch is actually procured from our county diversion programs located at each of our solid waste facilities. We receive a lot of source separated wood waste. Then we have our operations where we chip and grind that material. And of course, we're using that for weed control, drainage control, soap stabilization, a wide variety of uses for both that mulch and that compost. Next slide, please. And so the bulk of the rest of my presentation, I wanted to elaborate on what else we have going on with electricity from biomass. As you can see on the screen, our department procured 3 air burners, and these are considered fireboxes. So we have one currently operating in our Shafter landfill. We have one pending EPA and Air District's approval at our Bena landfill. And these are units that are hooked up to the grid. So the energy that's produced in electricity is sent directly to the grid. And you can see for Mojave, we have a biocharger series, which I'll get into in a little bit, but it is essentially a closed off-grid battery system that essentially charges equipment on site for us to use it. Next slide, please. So I wanted to just get into a little bit of the technical nature of how these air curtain technologies work. I have some graphics and also some videos and a few slides to kind of put these things together. But essentially the way the air curtain technology has worked, it uses an electrically powered fan. These machines essentially generate a curtain of air, like an air manifold over that. And so it has a particular flow and velocity. And essentially this curtain traps the heat and a lot of the wood debris, of course, inside of this burn chamber. And it's really designed originally to be like an air pollution control device as compared to when you do open burning for like say fire response, wildfire management versus controlled firebox control, which has this air curtain. And so essentially what happens is we dump this wood debris and these wood feedstocks into it, and then we basically ignite it, and the air curtain shortly engages after that. Next slide, please. So what happens is, I mentioned from an air quality perspective, the air curtain actually traps a lot of the PM, and we know there's a lot of health issues and respiratory issues with particulate matter. So it traps that 2.5, that PM 2.5, and causes them to reburn directly under that air curtain. And we're not, just for clarity, the machines, we don't inject any sort of fuel into the fire. The fire is actually sustained only by adding more feedstocks, and I'll tell you what feedstocks particular we're using here in a minute. So the air curtain then runs on the steady state throughout the burn operation. So it's more of like a slow feed of all of these different feedstocks, and the feedstock is loaded at a rate consistent with the rate of burn. So you have operators that are checking the fire, they're checking the burn box, they're seeing where there are gaps where they can drop new feedstock. And typically these machines burn at a rate of 1 to 2 tons per hour, but some of the larger design ones can actually run up to 10 tons per hour. We don't personally have those with Kern County Public Works. We have the smaller ones, so we can generate between a 1 to 4 ton per hour burn rate for our units. Next slide, please. And so here's a little graphical representation of exactly how the air burner works. So the air curtain is basically, as I mentioned, a lid covering the open firebox, so you're limiting the amount of that PM particulate matter. And also the air curtain is designed to keep all of that heat that is being generated from the firebox and the burning of the biomass, and then that heat is actually recaptured. And so what you'll see during the operation, actually just like waves of heat, almost like radiant heat you'd see off asphalt or off of a piece of equipment if you're working in the summertime. And so that graphic, as you're seeing here, is there's an air manifold. The air curtain works and basically essentially continues to fuel that fire underneath there. The wood waste is the feedstock, and essentially as it's generating this large volume, massive heat, that's being recaptured, and that in turn is being turned into electricity, converted and put onto the grid. Next slide, please. All right, just so that everybody knows what kind of feedstocks we're using here. So we had to go through about over a 2-year process just to get this item permitted in our San Joaquin Air District boundary. Is a very lengthy process, so a little advice there if you're interested in one of these in the San Joaquin. They're moving faster on permits, but it definitely does take a process. So what we decided is we have these large items such as like tumbleweeds, palm fronds, yucca, other similarly woody fibrous material like stumps, logs, roots, a lot of these things that are just difficult to handle from an operational perspective. We got tired of essentially just disposing of these in our landfills with 1383. We pivoted and said, how do we manage these feedstocks? And so we looked at what is unsuitable as just as a raw feedstock to a biomass fuel plant or to a composting operation. And so we made the argument with the APCD that these are items that cannot be compostable, easily compostable. And so we agreed on these set terms of the feedstock. Essentially the feedstocks, we cannot burn any ACM, so asbestos containing material. Of course, any of the metals, plastics, particle board, treated wood with preservatives, roofing material, anything that has any sort of quote unquote contaminant is we're not able to burn. And of course we don't want to. So we do our diligence about source separating those materials out, removing any metals or plastics before we drop in there. The air curtain is actually permitted to burn about 38 tons of material in one day. We're not quite up to that full potential of that. We're still trying to dial in these units, but it does allow us to burn that volume. And over a 12-month rolling period, we can burn close to 8,000 tons of material. Again, not at that full level yet, but we're getting close. Next slide, please. So again, the air curtain is hooked up to the grid. So we have an agreement with our local power provider. So the power is actually generated, as I mentioned, through the burning of our approved bio feedstock. So the system is actually equipped with a integrated waste heat generator. So as I mentioned, as that heat from the fire, it's being captured, that's being transformed within the generating system, this ORC that we have. And then that is actually being transferred into an electrical source and sent to the grid. Again, this system tracks temperature, inlet pressure, outlet pressure. It controls the flow rate, total generated power, and a lot more components of the system. I have a couple screenshots here. And so the cool part actually is that at the end of this, we produce a really high quality ash product at the end of the burning process. And that, once it's cooled, it's stockpiled and cooled, then we actually use that as a feedstock for composting as well. And so again, we have this, again, the whole, closed system circular idea where we're having no waste resulting from a lot of these products that we used to be able to have to bury or use a lot of equipment and a lot of manpower to dismantle and reduce the size. So thanks to some grant money with local assistance for 1383, we did buy a couple of log and stump splitters. And so these are really used to reduce the overall size for handling. So it makes the burn a little bit more efficient and a little bit more effective. Next slide, please. And so here I'm going to get into some photos you can see on the left here. It's basically a 3 modular system. So on the left, where you see that orange PG Firebox logo, that's the actual box in which we are putting all of our biomass material into. To the right there, that is actually where the electricity is, where the waste heat goes into. It goes through a cooling process and the electricity is actually generated and converted into there. Onto the right, you'll see a large-scale cooling module, which essentially keeps the system running at a very peak performance and efficiency factor, so that we are trying, so that the system itself can convert as much of that waste heat into electricity as possible. Next slide, please. So again, here are some of the feedstocks as operators or even anybody working in transfer station, landfills. This is not an uncommon sight for you. So we have a lot of palm that comes in, whether it's fresh palm from a recent trim or stuff that has been dried, dead, held onto for a long time. And we have large stockpiles of tree trunks and roots. And you can see some even large just pieces of wood that have been split. And the operation's essentially pretty simple. We have our boxes, and then we have a individual cat loader that is just slowly loading those feedstocks into the system. Next slide, please. Again, just a short video of how easy the operation is. You can see that this individual, will have a video here in a second, is simply just going up and taking these big roots and dumping them right into the firebox. Next slide, please. All right, here is an active burn that is going on. As you can see, we have a large volume of feedstock that's in there. The little hood that is over there, that little dome that you look, that's retractable, so it goes in and out based on the operation, the amount of heat being generated. And so as that air curtain's moving, all that waste heat is being sucked up through that hood and eventually going into that generator unit. Next slide, please. All right, just want to give you a quick idea. This is all touchscreen technology that's in here that's provided by air burners. Again, not much to see on these other than it makes it really easy for a lot of our operators to look at temperature, when to do cool down, when to start up, when to activate the hood and the cooling module. Next slide, please. Here's the ash that I talked about. And as you can see, it's mostly a really fine material. Again, we leave this cooling inside of a roll-off bin, and it's eventually sent out as a residual for a composting operation. Next slide, please. Go ahead and hit play, and what you'll see here is just an operator that's going up, and he is just going to be dumping. You can see on this one particularly, he has a very large volume in that bucket. So he's going to dump everything out of that bucket to that right side. So again, really, really standard operation. If you wouldn't mind going to the next slide as well. you'll see that the operator approaches, he notices a gap on that left-hand side. So he is just trying to maximize the burn and the efficiency of it. So he just takes one log and goes and deposits it into the firebox itself. Next slide. And then as this is playing, you'll just see, you kind of see the little heat waves on the left-hand side. And that's really the amount of emission that you're seeing from there. That's just some excess waste heat that's coming off of the system, but a very, very integrated, very simple approach to capturing these biomass products. Next slide, please. Again, this is just same thing, just a different visual. You can see a little bit of the flames coming through there. You try and reduce that flame as much as you can, because sometimes when the flame breaks that air curtain, it can kind of release some extra emissions, but generally that's why they're up there taking a lot of look at where it's burning and how's it operating. Next slide, please. And this is just the fire. It runs like this for 5 to 6 hours, and then they have to cool it down. And before we leave the site each day, we're just making sure that it is safe to leave and that it's been covered with some dirt or watered down to start the cooling process. Next slide, please. Okay, so real quickly, with a couple minutes left, we have a Mojave air curtain. It's called a biocharger. Once again, this is an off-grid closed battery system, so no produced power is sent to the grid. It is stored in the biocharger battery system. The battery bank charges the on-site electric loader, which you'll see in a second. So it's a Volvo L25. And this is actually, in fact, compatible. You can charge electric vehicles, forklifts, excavators, chainsaws, auxiliary lights for operations if you need it to. It has a very standardized EV plug. And for this particular models, it is in a different air district, so we can actually burn up to 50 tons per day. Next slide. So you'll see here, very similar to what we have at our Shafter landfill. That is the electric loader on the left-hand side and on the right. And essentially, they're just loading into the firebox again. Next slide. So this is the generator. It's on the left. You can see right where that orange cone is. You can see the thing that goes into the ground. That is the line in which all of the electricity being produced is being sent over into that biocharger on the right-hand side, where you can see there's 3 charging ports. Next slide, please. Here's just another screenshot of the control panels, all touchscreen. You can see on the right-hand side, it shows that we've generated about 4,500 kilowatts of power. And then on the screen on the left, it'll actually give you an SOC percentage, which is a state of charge. And so it's currently showing at the time of this picture that the battery was at 33.4% charged. Next slide. So given that we have 3 large batteries on site, there is a built-in fire suppression system and extinguishing control system there. So that's on the left. And in the middle and onto the right, or the middle, you can see that there's a standardized EV plug that we use for our Volvo. And to the right, you'll see just how many electronic components actually go into the manufacturing and operation of these biochargers and firebox units. Next slide, please. So again, very similar to the Shafter operation. We're going to end up with a residual at the end of the day. Again, this stuff is trucked from our Mojave operation to a regional compost facility here regionally in the metropolitan area. But again, this material could be hauled eventually to our Shafter Wasco composting facility that we're currently building. And yeah, so there's essentially, again, no waste coming from these units. Next slide. Okay, I thought there was a couple more. We're good. Thank you so much, Morgan and the CalRecycle crew, for letting us share about what we are doing with air curtains. Again, it is a small fraction of what we're doing with our procurement targets. The bulk of it does come from our mulch and compost, but our department originally bought these things as a way to simply just put energy back into the grid and to avoid having to dispose of and handle and process these large biomass units or products. And so having electricity from biomass as a 1383 procurement metric is actually a benefit to us. We never intended to do that, but it was a nice outcome for it. So on behalf of myself and the Kern County Public Works Department, I'd like to thank you for letting me present today.
Thanks so much, Dave. Appreciate that. It's my pleasure to now introduce Judith Silver, the Senior Waste Prevention and Recycling Manager for Recycle Smart. Recycle Smart oversees all services for the cities of Danville, Walnut Creek, Lafayette, Moraga, and Orinda. Judith has 35 years of excuse me, sorry, experience and engagement in the fields of resource recovery, waste prevention, and recycling. She has experience in multiple facets of the zero waste world as a local government staff person, working for a hauler, and as a zero waste consultant. Most recently, she's been working on SB 1383 implementation and compliance, as we all have. Thanks so much for being here, Judith, and take it away.
Thanks, Kathleen. Great to be here. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks to CalRecycle for inviting us. So a super interesting presentation so far. Hope I can keep up. So yeah, today I want to talk to you about our food recycling project. Next slide, please. I want to start by giving you a little overview of our service area. We are in Contra Costa County. We are a joint power authority. We are not the whole county. We are not the county. There are 2 JPAs in the county of Contra Costa, and then also some individual jurisdictions. Next slide, please. We have about 230,000 residents, 12 board members, 2 from each of our member agencies, so elected officials who serve on our board. We have about 67,000 single-family accounts, so we're largely a suburban, single-family heavy service area. We have 2 franchise contracts, one with Republic Services. They collect our 3-stream system, so trash, recycling, and organics. They handle the landfill at Keller Canyon Landfill, and also operate our compost operation at their forward compost facility in Manteca. And then Mount Diablo Resource Recovery handles our single stream recycling, once they're collected by Republic at their Pittsburgh facility. And they also operate our reuse program as well. Next slide, please. So before I dig into our food recycling project and the material that's taken to East Bay Mud for anaerobic digestion, I just want to characterize that we have two commercial organics collection programs. One is sort of mirrors our single family with food scraps and yard trimmings, and the other is just food scraps to AD. And I think the point I want to make here, first of all, on the EPA scale, you can see that compost and anaerobic digestion are sort of treated as equally good in terms of processing technologies. So that feels really great. And I also would imagine that our compost facility appreciates that some of the goopier material that comes out of our commercial sector is not landing at their facility for processing, and that stuff is taken to East Bay Mud instead. So there's some ancillary benefits of having the 2 programs, but it is an interesting approach. For our commercial sector, about 2/3 go to the AD and about 1/3 goes to compost. But overall, much more of our material, when you factor in single family and multifamily and the commercial piece, a lot more tons are ending up at the compost facility. Next slide, please. So the food recycling project, as it was coined here a bunch of years ago, is our food to energy program. It started back a long time ago. We've been at recycling and organics for a number of years already. I would say we definitely have one of the more mature programs here been at this for a long time. So it started back in 2009. I really want to call out my predecessor, whose position I took over when he retired, Bart Carr, for being visionary and bringing all of the partners together and making this happen, kind of seeing the landscape and understanding that this was an opportunity. And I'll explain how that came to pass. But it started off as a pilot. With partnership from Republic Services, 2 collection days a week, and then brought to the Martinez transfer station that Republic operates and processed through a tub grinder. And then that material was brought over to East Bay Mud. Fast forward to today, we have over 750 project participants We have 6 days of collection, and there was a switch in 2020 to a different processing technology at the Martinez transfer station, which has been very, very important to the success of the program. The tub grinder was retired, and in its place, a Scott Thor depackager was installed, and that has been a very great improvement. Next slide, please. So why does this program work here? We don't deal with as many stumps as Kern County does. What we have is a very suburban, very built out environment with a lot of restaurants. A lot of people go out to eat in our area, hotels, hospitals, grocery stores, a lot of food scrap generators, a lot of prepared food. So we also have proximity to East Bay Mud, which is only 17 miles away from the transfer station, just the county over in Oakland, which is in Alameda County. Another important factor is that we allow the food generators to use plastic bag liners to collect the food scraps at restaurants. So that really facilitates. We piloted using paper bags instead. We allow people to use bio bags, but at the end of the day, the clear, and that's essential that they are clear so that the driver can see inside the bags to make sure that the contents is not trash. That the plastic bag liners are really useful to our generators because they can tie off the bag and pick it up and handle and walk it out to the exterior enclosure in a way that really makes a difference. Also, even storing plastic bags in a tight restaurant space, kitchen space is an efficient way to go. Another aspect of why this program has worked so well was the partnership with Republic Services. The type of collection vehicle they use allows them to pick up both carts and bins with the same vehicle. We allow up to 64-gallon cart size for weight and up to 2 yards size of bins, so because they're lifting it up and over, they don't want it to get too heavy. You know that food scraps can be quite heavy. Again, the installation of the Thor depackager has made a huge difference in the contamination, and because the program is really relies on the generators to provide clean feedstock. The only pre-processing happens at the Martinez transfer station, and then the material goes directly to East Bay Mud. Again, I want to call out the Republic Recycling Coordinators or the Sustainability Advisors, as they like to be called, for their recruitment of businesses to the program, for their ongoing training. They also provide starter slim gyms for folks to get going on the program, so lots of tools. And then another key factor, next slide, please. That we were able to capitalize on is that East Bay Mud, the wastewater treatment plant in Oakland, had excess digester capacity. And that's because when the facility was built, it was meant to bring in trucked waste from cannery processing facilities in the area. And all of those canneries eventually closed. And so they have excess capacity. So they were very interested in partnering with us, and they partner not just with us. I want to clarify, just to say there are other folks who are bringing material to them, but we bring I think we have the longest relationship with them, and we probably bring the most food scraps to them. But the fact that they have excess capacity, our proximity, the amount of food generators in our area all kind of came together, and that's how this program was born. Next slide, please. So I think this slide is helpful. It talks about some of the great outreach that we've developed and the way that we're constantly trying to educate the generators, to explain to them why it's so important that we don't bring anything, that we don't contaminate the material that's going to East Bay Mud. East Bay Mud's facility is very sensitive. They can't absorb really anything over a 2-inch size. Everything has to be prepared for them properly. But you can see here that, the images really show that it's a food-only program. We accept very limited amounts of food soil paper in the form of coffee filters or tea bags, paper towels, or paper napkins, but really nothing else. And so that's the lesson. That's the messaging that we're constantly trying to get out to our the folks who participate on our program. Next slide, please. So this slide talks about just the amount of inbound tons that are collected from the service area and brought to the Martinez transfer station. You can see the dip in 2020 because of COVID, and it's good to see that we're starting to get back to our to some of those bigger numbers that we'd like to see of the tons that are collected. So just to give you a sense of how many tons are being processed with this program. Next slide, please. So these next slides show, can you hit the next slide just so we can get that last slide? Yeah, perfect. So this shows some of the material that's landing at the transfer station. You can see the plastic bags, and you can see some bio bags as well. You can see also on the slide on the right, this is the material that was being processed through the Thor, so the old system, and you can see the kind of oatmeal on the bottom left, the sort of slurry that is created from that. And then this last slide on the right here shows the material being offloaded and delivered at the facility at East Bay Mud. Next slide, please. This slide is very helpful because I think it just shows, well, first of all, it shows the Thor depackager. So it replaced, as I've said, this tub grinder concept. And you can see the amount of contamination that's being pulled out through the on the left, and that just gets pushed over to the rest of the pile at the transfer station and landfilled. And then the slurry, which is a lot more like baby food, it's a little bit more equal in size. East Bay Mud is very, very sensitive. Their processing technology does not allow for almost any contamination. And with the Thor depackager, we were able to bring the average amount of contamination down from like 15% into their facility down to like 3 or 4%. And it's really made a difference in terms of really the viability of the program. So a huge plus. And it's really appreciate Republic Services for their efforts to partner with us on that and help us figure out some fixes to the operational constraints that East Bay Mud has and able to continue the program, even though we've spent many hours and much effort and money to try and educate the public, educate generators to participate properly, and they do a great job. But that's just the nature of the beast, as we all know. So next slide, please. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how this program translates into our organic waste procurement obligation with East Bay Mud. We get information from with CalRecycle. We get information from East Bay Mud annually for how much energy is generated. We take credit for the energy that's used to power the wastewater treatment plant, and the city of Oakland takes credit for any excess energy that's actually sold to the Port of Oakland. And so in 2023, 75% of the energy that we delivered through our food scraps was used to power the East Bay Mud facility. And we used the conversion factor provided in the SB 1383 regulations. And we come up with an organic ton equivalent of 821 tons. So we have 821 tons that we've helped our member agencies meet their procurement obligations with. Next slide, please. What we do then with those tons is we apportion them based on the number of food recycling project businesses that are in each member agency service area. So one of our member agencies has 346 accounts on the program, and that helps them with almost 7% of their overall SB 1383 obligation. It's not a huge part of what they need to meet their overall obligation. But as I said, we didn't really start the program to meet any of the procurement obligations. So it's all a win for us. And we're glad that we can help our member agencies in this way. And so on the next slide, I just want to conclude by talking about how we are helping our member agencies overall. We're doing it through the East Bay Mud Program. We're doing it through compost giveaways. We just started a compost hub, so for ongoing availability of compost for our residents. And we have a direct service provider agreement with Forward Compost Facility when they sell the compost on our behalf. So those are the ways that we're trying to crack the nut as it is. And on the last slide, I will just offer up my name and happy to answer any questions you have. I really appreciate the opportunity to present on this program. We're very proud of it, and it's great to be here. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Judith, for your informative presentation. Next, I have the pleasure of introducing our next presenter, Winnie Xiao. Winnie is a project engineer in the energy recovery section at the Los Angeles County Sanitation District. She has been with LA County Sanitation for 7 years, and her work primarily focuses on the expansion and operations of the food waste recycling program. Winnie also assists with SB 1383 compliance and procurement startup efforts. Welcome, Winnie.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Winnie Xiao, and I'm here to explain how the Los Angeles County Sanitation Districts can support jurisdiction in meeting their procurement targets through the recovered organic waste product that we offered. Next slide, please. Quick background on our agency. We manage both solid waste and wastewater for about 5.7 million people across 78 cities in the Los Angeles County. For the past 8 years, we've been focusing on food waste recycling, and now we could help jurisdictions like yours to meet the procurement goals set by SB 1383. Next slide, please. As you all know, annual procurement amounts are assigned to each jurisdiction based on the jurisdiction population. To comply with SB 1383, jurisdictions must be in full procurement compliance starting January 1st, 2025, meaning you'll need to procure 100% of your assigned target for the 2025 compliance year. Next slide. Jurisdiction has the option to procure any combination of one or more products to fulfill 100% of its procurement target. This flexibility allows you to choose the products that best meet your needs and align with your goals. Next slide. At the districts, we're offering electricity generated from renewable gas as a solution. Food waste is delivered to our Warren facility as a slurry. It gets processed through our anaerobic digesters that produces renewable gas. This gas is then converted into electricity at our total energy facility, which powers our operations on site. By 2025, we anticipate having approximately 13 million kilowatt hours of electricity available for procurement. Just so everyone is clear, we're not offering the actual electricity, related attributes, or any renewable natural gas volumes or rights. It's only going to be a paper transaction that documents how much organic waste we receive and the electricity that we have generated and used on site. Next slide, please. So for those of you who are interested to secure a direct service provider agreement with us, you may submit an offer on our purchasing website. My contact information is at the end, is on the last slide, so you can email me and I'll provide the link to you to submit the offer. We may execute multiple DSP agreements with different jurisdictions until all of our products are reserved. Along with the agreements, we'll also provide a written certification for jurisdictions to report to CalRecycle whenever a transaction occurs. The written certification will include details on the amount of organic waste received at our site, the amount of electricity generated from renewable gas, and the percentage of biosolids disposed. The initial contract term will be for compliance year 2025, with the option to extend for 2 additional years upon mutual agreement. Next slide, please. Here's an example of how you may allocate part or all of your procurement targets in one or more products in the CalRecycle calculator. Let's say the jurisdiction population is 10,000 residents, which means their procurement target would be 800 tons of organic waste per year. If you want to allocate 10% of the target to electricity from renewable gas, then 19,360 kilowatt hour would be the annual procurement products that you would need to put on the offer to the districts. Next slide, please. Here are some common questions that you may have. Can a waste hauler submit an offer? Yes, a waste hauler may submit an offer on behalf of a jurisdiction. We will establish a separate agreement with the waste hauler, who will be responsible for managing the jurisdiction's procurement. Can a waste hauler send us food waste and receive procurement products associated to it? We are open to agreements where food waste is derived from our Warren facility in exchange for a corresponding amount of procurement products at a combined price. So what price range are we expecting from the offers? We use the market price for the other SB 1383 procurement products as reference points. Next slide, please. So thank you everyone for your time. If you'd like to submit an offer or if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Winnie. It is now my pleasure to introduce Mitchell Martin. Mitchell Martin is the founder of Valinor Energy, bringing over 13 years of experience in the biomass power industry. As a former vice president of engineering at Greenleaf Power, he managed multiple biomass facilities and worked closely with CalRecycle to understand how biomass power plants could be part of the procurement solution. Mitchell now consults on SB 1383 compliance, specializing in partnering power plants with cities to help meet procurement goals and reduce emissions in California. His expertise spans regulatory compliance, project management, and practical solutions for the evolving renewable energy landscape. Mitchell, you can turn on your camera. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much. And I appreciate the time. I know this will be brief. We've only got a 5-minute. I'm happy to answer questions in the Q&A, and my contact information is in the back of the presentation. Today, we're going to walk through just sort of how PCAs work for a biomass plant, how can they help your goals, and ultimately, what do they cost as you're planning for this year and next. Next slide, please. So the facilities that Valinor works with, we take woody materials in and convert that to renewable energy. And these plants that we work with and similar plants support California in several ways. One is the agricultural industry, the forestry industry, and just renewable energy in general. But we also support SB 1383. And that happens when we take wood that was otherwise going to a landfill, and we use that material to create energy. Next slide, please. So just like the other presenters are talking about PCAs today, it's really, we're taking material out of the waste stream and we're creating energy. That energy is sold to the utilities, but we are also creating a certificate or a PCA, which accounts for the compliance work that's done by the power plant, and can then be transferred to the city. And I think I'm going to give all the credit here to April Hamid of HF&H. I think she has the best example on how to think about this. If you remember the old Monopoly game at McDonald's, where you'd buy a cup for a Coke and you could peel the sticker off the cup and then you could transfer that to someone else. That's kind of the concept that we're talking about here, where we're making the energy, but we can peel off that PCA credit and transfer that to the city. So same idea. A couple of points from this slide. It's tied to how much energy the city uses for municipal operations, and we need to show where the fuel came from, the permitted sources. So there's a little bit of administrative work on the back end, but the real basic point is that the power plants are taking in that material that was otherwise going to a landfill. They're using that to create energy, which is going onto the power grid. But just before it goes out the door, we're going to peel that sticker off. And that sticker, the PCA, the compliance, that's demonstrating the compliance work that was done at the plant, that's what can then be transferred to the city to count for your SB 1383 goals. Everything that Valinor offers comes with all the right documentation and attestations for the credits. We also send or will be sending at the end of this year everything to CalRecycle. So no double counting. It's kind of like a read my lips, no double counting situation. That way, both you, the jurisdiction, and CalRecycle will have confidence that the product meets your requirements. We're going to be just an open book with you, each jurisdiction, just to make sure that you are confident in the process. Next slide, please. Lots of opportunity here. Our plants are currently generating the electricity. We've made a lot of credits in 2024. In total, we can meet about 15 to 20% of the state's SB 1383 procurement goals. So we are just one part of a large picture here, and we want to work with cities as they're using other products as well. Sometimes it's helpful for something like these PCAs to kind of fill in the gaps and round out your compliance plan. We usually engage directly with the cities. There is new language that allows us to work with the DSP who's working with the city. So we have that option. We haven't done that one just yet. Next slide, please. So cost, obviously an important question as you're planning. What's the cost? Credits are still available in 2024. Those are available at $9 a ton. And so just to kind of put that in context, and this scales whatever your population, but for a city of 100,000 with a requirement of just over 5,000 tons, we could meet your compliance goals, all of them, this year for just over $45,000. And there's kind of a couple of helpful things there. If you've already purchased some products, that's great. We scale, and we would encourage you to do so. There's a lot of great products and a lot of great need around. So we can scale to 0 to 100% to just sort of fit in. If you haven't started this year and you need to get going, that's okay too. We can still meet your goals. And then the last one, when you're working with our plants, is we have a money back guarantee. And we want to make sure that the cities have confidence that the product is going to meet your compliance requirements. Next slide, please. Easy way to find us, you can certainly go to our website. We have an SB 1383 page. You can download the Excel calculator there. That Excel file sort of helps you to plug in the information that you've already purchased, and the lower left-hand section will calculate what the sort of filling in the gaps would be. Also, just reach out to me. Happy to put all this information together. We'll put all of it in an offer together for you. You know, we can run those calculations, not a problem. Next slide, please. The goal is really just to keep it simple. The plants are going to handle the vast majority of the paperwork. We're doing all this compliance work. We've already generated credits in 2024. We still have credits that are available. We've got a little over 100,000 tons that are in the works, and we have about 200,000 tons of compliance credit that's still available. We have time to get the contract signed. We have form agreement that has been used by other cities, but we're also happy to work with your city's attorney, either to redline what we have, or we can certainly work with an agreement that you all are comfortable using as well. And ultimately, we just want to be an affordable resource to the cities as part of their planning process for the compliance. That's going to wrap it up for me. Again, my contact information is here. I'll be in the Q&A, and I'll post my information in the chat as well. But just want to say thank you so much for the time.
Thank you so much, Mitchell. Next up, we have Josh Glovin. Josh has over 13 years of experience as an operations leader in ocean engineering, manufacturing, and logistics. His expertise spans managing complex systems, optimizing production workflows, and leading teams in high-stakes environments. He now leads Vespine Energy, developing distributed biogas to electricity projects. Josh?
Thanks for the introduction. Again, my name is Josh. I represent Vespine Energy and a food waste digester project in Northern California. Vespine is an biogas to energy developer, we work in not only the anaerobic digester space, but also the landfill gas to energy space. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Thanks to the previous presenters, a lot of my work has been done for me already. The digester facility in Northern California creates electricity from renewable gas. It is part of this infographic from CalRecycle that we've all become so familiar with. And like Mitchell was just explaining a moment ago, just going to go pretty quickly here since we just heard about it. Next slide. The electricity and the PCA are separate from each other. Our electricity goes to powering the facility and to the grid. And when it comes to the PCA, that is available as a separate product, which can count directly towards your jurisdiction's requirements. So that's the book and claim system that everybody is talking about here. It's sort of the official name. It's very similar to some of the other sort of renewables products that we deal with in the landfill space. Let's go to the next slide. When it comes to how the emissions are sort of considered, the anaerobic digestion to electricity is sort of the most carbon negative way of handling food waste and these products. So in many ways, this is considered the highest and best use of that particular feedstock. Although it can be composted in one of the aerated static piles that treats the sort of like bulk green waste, the food waste has a higher energy potential, and that's why it's the best way to handle it is through anaerobic digestion and the creation of renewable energy. Let's move on to the next slide, nice and fast here. So the facility in Northern California has been operating for about 10 years, and everybody sort of picked their heads up and said, hey, we can contribute to the work of SB 1383 with the PCAs. And so that is why I'm speaking to you all today, offering up the roughly 2,800 ton equivalents that have been generated in 2024. And we're going to be upgrading that facility in the coming months to approximately 10 times its current generation capacity. And those subsequent PCAs will be available for either a short or long-term contract. Be happy to talk to anybody about that. But currently, 2024 are what we're talking about. And if anybody would like to get in touch with me about that, noticing now that I don't have my contact information up here, I will drop it in the chat for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. And now we'll have Ben Johnson introduce our next speaker.
Thank you, Josh, for that presentation. So next we have Jim Phillips. Jim Phillips, Director of Sales and Marketing for Savannah Bioenergy. Jim has been working in the waste and recycling industry since 1990. Jim spent the first part of his career working for the hauling side of the business in operations, sales, and recycling. Jim's passion for technology led him to working for companies that provide onboard computer technology and software for hauling companies to create operating efficiencies and improve customer service. Jim recently worked as EVP and CCO of Fleet Genius, a leading provider of equipment and container management services, for 6 years and helped implement one of the zero waste programs for CalRecycle-LA. Prior to joining Savannah Bioenergy, Jim was the Vice President of Business Development for True North Renewable Energy, a developer of high solids AD facilities. Jim is now leading the sales and marketing efforts at Savannah Bioenergy, a leading developer of anaerobic digestion facilities in the U.S. and the owner and operator of the Rialto, California AD facility designed to process food, waste, and organic rich material derived from MSW. Jim, you have the floor, or virtual floor.
Thank you. I appreciate that introduction. If we could go to the next slide, please. So a little background on who Savanna Bioenergy is. Savanna is a very accomplished anaerobic digester developer throughout the US. Since 2017, we've developed approximately $350 million worth of projects, primarily in the ag space, taking dairy cow manure and producing renewable natural gas. And that gas is injected into the pipeline. Our team is global. We have over 100 years combined experience in the development and operations of AD facilities. And so the company is well poised to help support SB 1383 through our Rialto project. If we could go to the next slide, please. Many of you may have seen the press release. We had an infusion of capital from the Ontario Teachers Pension Fund, over $250 million into the company. And that capital is really to help Savanna to continue to develop AD facilities, including facilities that would process food waste here in California that would support the efforts of SB 1383. We used some of that capital to purchase the Rialto facility. If we go to the next slide. Many of you may be familiar with this facility. It was previously owned by Energia. Facility went into bankruptcy this year, and Savanna purchased it. And since purchasing the facility in the summer of 2024, we've invested millions of dollars into improving the facility, not only its capability to be able to process a variety of feedstocks, but also improving the quality of the digesters and our ability to have a reliable solution for jurisdictions and waste haulers to accept food waste. It's an extremely large facility. We have approximately 300,000 ton per year capacity to process food waste, and it will generate 1 million MMBTU per year. The next slide, please. We'll spend some more time here. The previous presentations did a great job explaining how the procurement works and how the environmental attributes are handled. So I'll spend some time talking about the type of feedstock that we take in and what's available to jurisdictions to purchase. So currently, we're actually taking feedstock derived from two different sources. One is through MSW. So there are a variety of presses out there, including the Oryx press and Comar that was mentioned earlier, the Thor press. So MSW is pressed through, and we take the organics out of that, and that organic material is being sent to the Rialto facility to produce renewable natural gas. The other feedstock that we're taking is a food waste slurry, similar to what's being taken to the LA Sanitation District and the other ADs. The difference with this compared to a wastewater treatment plant is that we have the ability to take a little bit higher contamination. So if you're a jurisdiction and you have a commercial food waste route, for example, you could take that commercial food waste, process it through the Thor system, and then that slurry or what's left over, even though it may have, up to 5% contamination, could be taken to our Rialto facility. We would process that. We have a polishing system that removes some of the contaminants. And from that, we produce an SB 1383 qualified renewable natural gas. We are open to taking additional feedstocks. We're currently taking feedstocks from haulers in the Southern California area, but we're in the process of signing term sheets with other aggregators of food waste and processors of food waste, as well as reaching out to jurisdictions and cities that may have food waste collection programs and may want to take it to an AD facility like ours. We're currently open to selling the RNG to help cities meet 1383 procurement requirements. Right now, 2025 is completely open. And so really appreciated the opportunity to present today because we're actively reaching out to jurisdictions throughout California to see if they'd like to purchase our RNG to meet their procurement requirements. We partner with a company called Anu. Anu is a RNG marketing company that works on a nationwide basis. They have experience in handling all of the reporting and processing the necessary paperwork on the purchase side of things. And they also have already completed several transactions for other jurisdictions within California. So if you're a jurisdiction that's interested in either bringing food waste or feedstock to our Rialto facility or purchasing our RNG, please reach out to me. We would love to work with you and talk about those details on a separate call, as well as going through any of the necessary requirements for paperwork and reporting. We can help you through all of those. And my contact information is on the next slide. If you could go to the next slide, please. So once again, my contacts here on the right, Jim Phillips, my cell phone, and my email address. And I'd love to hear from you and see how we could help you meet your SB 1383 requirements. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jim. And thank you so much to all of our presenters. So we're going to move on to the question and answer section of the webinar now. We will have about 25 minutes to get through our question and answers. And at the end, Artie and Marshall will jump on and wrap up the webinar and provide closing remarks. For the Q&A process, Darren, can you pull up the slide that gives people directions? You're going to want to make sure that you're using the Q&A option and not putting your question in the chat. We're going to go ahead and read out your name and ask you to unmute yourself and read out your question. Make sure you state your name and affiliation, and we will answer the questions that way. If you put your question in the chat, we will not see it there. So please make sure that you are using the Q&A function. And I will pass it over to Zach. Zach, if you want to get us started with the questions.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Mallory. So we have a couple questions queued up here, and our first one is from April Hamoud. This question was directed at Robert Sedita with Orange County. April, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and read that question out loud for us.
Sure. Hi, Robert. April. I wanted to know, how have you worked with Caltrans? Did any jurisdiction receive that SB 1383 procurement credit for compost and mulch used by Caltrans? And a little bit of background is from researching Caltrans, they have higher specs than other projects. So yeah, I'd like to hear your input on how you worked with Caltrans and their specifications.
Yeah, hi, April. Yeah, we have worked with Caltrans on some of their projects within Orange County. If I recall, all of them took place within the unincorporated areas. So the county did receive that unincorporated credit for their use. And kind of the initial kind of interactions with them was just the initial reach out as we developed our programs to let them know that we have this material, set enough time that they could come down, look at our sites, check out the material, provided this testing requirements to them. And based off that, they felt that it did meet all their specifications, and they did use it for 1383 procurement credits for the county.
Perfect. Thank you, Robert. All right. Our next question is going to be from JT Lee. This question was directed at David Lee with Kern County. JT, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself so you can read that question out loud, please.
I think that JT is still muted because I was asked to unmute. So maybe someone clicked the wrong person.
Yep, I can unmute now. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, my question was just with the air burners, Dave, if you could talk about any concerns or specific rules in getting these implemented. We were talking to our air district about this, and they had some hesitations. I know you answered in the Q&A, but yeah, that was just kind of my general question for it.
Yeah, one of the biggest concerns with, at least in the San Joaquin Air Pollution Control District, is that we are in non-attainment or severe non-attainment from an air quality perspective. And these air curtains do put out a decent amount of NOx and SOx emissions related to it. And so really, in order to work within our own permit Title V thresholds, we had to work with the air district, and they really limited us, one, on the types of feedstock, as you saw, the volume of feedstocks we can burn per day. Also, they restricted us on the hours of operation, so we can only operate from like 8 to 3 Monday through Friday. And then as a result of having that ash, we can only handle a certain amount of tons of ash per day, and it's pretty low. It's like only 1.25 tons per day at our Shafter site. So it's a really low volume. One of the bigger things we had to do was, in order to get essentially that fire started inside the firebox, we have to use like pallets or something like that that allows us to start that fire. Well, starting a fire causes a lot of smoke, and so there are certain opacity thresholds that we had to do from an EPA method perspective. And so we had to go through basically like a year of negotiation with them, and then we had to go through a 3-month pilot program on showing that we could meet their standards based on some variances within our permit. So the first burner, very complicated. The one in Mojave, it's Eastern Current Air District, so they don't have a lot of the attainment issues. So that was pretty clear. The one at Arbina landfill, we had some issues just because it's relatively close to a property boundary. And so the directions of the winds and the health assessment kind of caused us to make some adjustments and relocate that as well. So a lot of number of issues came up during that process, but it was just fine tuning those and really just negotiating with the air district on what we could and could not do.
Thank you, Dave. All right, our next question is from Stephanie Lau. This question was directed at Judith Silver with Recycle Smart. Stephanie, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, please.
Hi, thank you. My question has already been answered. Thanks.
Sorry, just to clarify, Stephanie, that would be to reread your question out loud so that we can hear it answered on the chat.
How does the Thor to packager work?
That's a great question. And my recommendation to her was to actually go to the Scott website and watch a demo of how it works, because I don't want to say it wrong. But essentially, there's like a bunch of claws, metal claws that unravel the bags and push the food out. That's a very lay version of what I'm sure is a very advanced technology, but yeah.
All right, thank you, Judith. Okay, we had a question that was directed at Mitchell Martin with Valinor Energy, and I'll go ahead and just read this one out for us. This question was, is there a location requirement for using your services? Do you service everywhere in California? Mitchell, if you want to go ahead and share your response to that question, please. See, Mitchell, are you available to unmute yourself and answer that question?
I was giving such a good answer on mute too, so sorry. Thank you, Zach. Yes, so there's no location requirement. We service everywhere in California. The power plants take that material in locally, but the PCAs can be transferred to any jurisdiction within the state. I'll go back on mute now, so.
All good. Thank you, Mitchell. Okay, we have another one from Marisa Davidson. This question was directed at Robert Sedita with Orange County. Marisa, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and read your question out loud, please.
Hi there. My question was, can you please provide more detail on how the rebate program works for jurisdictions? How did this start and how has it evolved? And what is your participation percentage?
Thank you. The rebate program is something that we're still developing with the city managers and the jurisdictions within the county. So it would be set to roll out July 1 of 2025. So it would be any organic waste that would come into the facilities for processing, they would pay a tip fee on or a gate rate. If they then take that material back out as finished material, they would then get a percentage, so around 85% of that tip fee back, based off the tonnage amount, to then put back into 1383 compliance, finding outflows for the material they took back, working on other 1383 related items or jurisdictional needs. So it's just a way to help incentivize the jurisdictions to keep that kind of flow of material and that regional approach local, that we're taking the material, we're processing it all in Orange County, and then we're utilizing it all in Orange County. So it's just an extra incentive for the processing and take back of organic waste within the county.
Thank you, Robert. Okay, our next question is from Nan Harold with LACSD. This question was directed at Dave Lee. Nan, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and read that question out loud, please.
Sure. So I was curious what kind of NOx and CO emissions have been measured from the firebox, and if you do have to do emissions testing on an annual basis.
Thank you for the question. So we don't have to do emissions testing for the different pollutants, NOx, SOx, PM10, VOC, or CO. Not at this time. That wasn't a condition of our permit, even though we have 52 conditions in our air district permit. But based on our manufacturing data that was provided to us by air burners, we are using a emission factor of 1 pound per ton of material burned for NOx and 2.6 pounds per ton for CO. So that's based on information we put in our application to the air district, and that's information provided by our manufacturer. So the only annual testing we have to do is opacity testing to make sure that we are doing that on every September. We have to do that. So that's the only testing at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if the air district, though, does come back and have us look at that again, just because of our non-attainment or severe non-attainment in certain pollutant criteria.
Thank you, Dave, for sharing your response to that. Our next question is coming from April Hamoud. This question was directed at Judith Silver with Recycle Smart. April, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and read your question out loud for us, please.
Hi, Judith. I saw that you, in one of your slides, you kept East Bay Mud calculated about 263,000 kilowatts of energy derived from food scraps in 2023. I wanted to know, how do they discern what energy was derived from the food scraps versus non-1383 eligible materials, since it's going, East Bay Mud is a water treatment plant, right?
Correct. Yes, East Bay Mud is a wastewater treatment plant. Essentially, they give us an annual report every year, and they tell us how much energy is derived from our food scraps, and they know what that number is based on our inbound tons. So I'd be happy to share that report with you if you'd like to see it, or with anybody who's interested in seeing it.
Yes, please. So I'll email you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you, Judith. Our next question is from Rebecca Parnas. This question is directed at Dave Lee again with Kern County. Rebecca, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, please, and read your question out loud. And let's see, it looks like Rebecca might not be in the chat anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and read their question for them. That question was, can you repeat how much energy, megawatts per ton of feedstock, is generated from the air burner unit?
Sure, yeah. Rebecca, thanks for the question. Collectively, we are getting close to about 10,000 kilowatts annually, and that's from both of the units. As I mentioned, we're not fully ramped up yet as far as like operation and getting all those components worked out, but we're close to about 10,000 kilowatts. The exact ton per ton generated rate, we go about 2,000 tons a year at this point. So we can do the math on that to figure out how many megawatts per ton. But as we enhance our operation, as we get better with how the feedstock and the units work, we'll be able to ramp that up pretty significantly.
Perfect. Thank you, Dave. Okay, our next question is from Kelly Schoonmaker. This question was for Robert Sedita with Orange County. Kelly, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, please, and read that question out loud for us.
Sure, thanks. I just wanted to clarify that Caltrans was also getting the compost for free, and it was answered.
And yeah, Robert, if you want to just kind of clarify what that process was with Caltrans procuring the compost, that would be great.
Yeah, and they did get the material for free. So anyone, Caltrans, public, private agencies, it's free to everyone. So they just, through the process, contacted us, made an appointment, told us how much they needed, when they needed it, and then came in to pick it up.
Perfect. Thank you, Robert. We had one more question from April Hamoud. This question was directed at Dave Lee regarding the approximate cost of each firebox. April, if you want to go ahead and read that question out loud for us, that would be great. Thank you.
Hi, Dave. What is the approximate cost of each of your fireboxes and biocharger?
Sure. Thank you for the question, April. Originally, when we procured our very first firebox, it was around $700,000. And that was inclusive of the firebox, the power generating module, and the cooling module. So all those 3 units. I'm blanking on the biocharger cost right now. I don't have the PO in front of me, but I can definitely get back to you on that. But when we are factoring in the amount of landfill space that's taken up from burial of these items, handling issues, processing time, not being able to find a destination for these feedstocks, the numbers really worked out in our favor. So Chuck McGee, who's our other public works manager, made the requisition to purchase these, and so we had bought a couple at the time. So I can get back to you on the biocharger because I know that was a supplement that Air Burners and our department worked collectively with Volvo on providing the right piece of equipment and the right fit for the kilowatt battery size for that unit.
All right, thank you. I'll email you too.
All right, thank you both. Our next question is from Amanda Doom. This question was directed at Robert Sedita with Orange County. Amanda, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, please, and read that question out loud for us. And it looks like Amanda is not in the webinar anymore, so I will go ahead and read that question. Question was, to clarify, are you, Orange County, producing both mulch and compost? I'm hearing both terms. If both are offered, both are free, correct?
Thanks, Zach. Yes, as we do offer both compost and composted mulch, so they both meet the CalRecycle requirement for compost. So our compost is 3/8 inch minus, and our mulch is 2 inch minus, and both products are free.
Perfect. Thank you, Robert. Our next question is from Shikha Gupta. This question was directed at Judith Silver with RecycleSmart. Shikha, if you want to go ahead and read that question out loud, that would be great. Thank you.
Hey, Zach. Yeah, I just wanted to know if RecycleSmart had a direct service provider agreement with East Bay Mud, and Judith was kind enough to share that with me. So they do have an agreement. And I guess just to follow up that this is acceptable by CalRecycle as a documentation for taking credit for that energy production, correct, Judith?
As far as we know, it's acceptable. We haven't been told otherwise. Yeah, we created a certificate. Actually, I had a slide with a certificate and I pulled it thinking it was too much information. But yeah, East Bay, we created the certificate and East Bay Mud has agreed to provide us with information following the regs for, how much energy and how much, just all the different pieces as required by the regulations. And they provide that to us each year. So we have that kind of in our implementation record. We don't provide it in the electronic annual report. So yeah, as far as we know, that should do it.
And there's no official or formal MOU regarding this, just the certification, correct?
Well, actually, it has been formalized now. We have a new contract with East Bay Mud that we recently finalized, and it is in that. So yes, it is formalized that they will provide us with the certificate each year.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much.
Sure. Would you, and I can send you that actual contract if you'd like to see it.
Yeah, that would be great. Appreciate it, Judith. Thank you.
All right, thank you both. Our next question is from Jenny Thompson. This question was directed at Robert Sedita with Orange County. Jenny, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, please, and read your question out loud.
Hi, I'm Jenny Thompson with the City of Oakdale. And my question was that Robert had mentioned including SB 1383 procurement language in their city contracts. And I asked if anyone had an example of that they could provide.
Yeah, thank you, Jenny. We did include language in our procurement contracts, or all of our contracts for the county. So we included template language for all different agencies within the county to utilize when they're drafting their contracts and agreements, that note either scope of work or terms for use of our material for 1383 procurement target credit, as well as how they are supplying records to us to match that record for CalRecycle. So if anyone needs it, I know I sent you a copy, Jenny, but if anyone needs it, they could reach out to me and I could supply that as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Robert. Our next question is from Mivan Kusiman. This question was for Judith with RecycleSmart. Mivan, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, please, and read that question out loud for us.
Yes, hi. And thank you for getting my name right. I'm very impressed. Yes, question for Judith Silver. I was wondering if you're seeing contamination in food scraps, such as food packaging or plastic foodware, basically people not removing food before they're disposing of it. Is the equipment able to handle, getting that, extracting the food out of there, or does it only handle the clear plastic bags?
I think I was focusing on the short answer is yes, it can remove mostly all the contaminants, not 100%, but pretty close. And I think I was focusing on plastic bags because we feel like that's a contaminant we're basically allowing people to put in at the outset to facilitate, to line the Slim Jims that way. We do see other contamination. It's not like horrible. We do a lot of training, but there's still, there's gloves and cutlery and, just kind of the things you would expect to see in a commercial kitchen. But the Thor is able to remove a lot of that, most of that.
All right, thank you, Judith. Okay, we have another question. This one I believe was asked by April Hamoud. This is another question for Judith, and it was regarding the estimated conversion factor for incoming food scraps. April, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and read your question out loud, please.
Hi, Judith. Do you happen to know if you have the conversion factor for what does an incoming ton of food scraps, how much food slurry tons does that create? Because I'm assuming that when an incoming food waste ton comes in, it goes through the authority packager and you'll have to separate the residuals. And then you'll also need to add water to create that slurry. So do you happen to know that conversion factor?
So one clarification, there is no additional water that's added. The slurry is the slurry. We don't add any water to it. We do know that we're losing more than we wish off the floor of the transfer station. And we've talked to Republic about ways we might be able to improve that with like underground, I don't know what you call those, ways to capture the liquid, because that's very valuable and it's kind of escaping. So I know there are some programs out there, maybe City of Sunnyvale, that has a better system, I believe, for capturing that moisture. So we are seeing a fair amount. We're losing a lot kind of at the Thor, but it's sort of, we need to do that in order to only deliver to East Bay Mud what they can process. So yeah, we have thought about how to improve the recovery rate of the depackager, and there probably are ways we could go about that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judith. We're getting towards the end of our questions here, but we do have a couple more. Our next question is from Rhonda Cade. This question was for CalRecycle staff. Rhonda, if you want to go ahead and unmute and you read your question out loud for us, please. That would be great. Thank you. All right. I'm not sure if Rhonda is able to unmute here, so I'll go ahead and read that question for us now.
Can you
The
hear
question,
me?
yes, we can.
Okay,
Thank you.
sorry
Go ahead.
about that. Trying to. Okay, so my name is Rhonda. I'm with the County of Fresno. I'm over the compost rebate program for the area. My question is, can the terms of the procurement agreement be represented in a calendar or fiscal year rather than from a single start date? And basically what that means is in prospectively, you know, that's how we are recognizing it right now. So the direct service provider will submit a signed contract and they put a date at the top of that. And that becomes the date of the agreement. And it usually, right now we're functioning as a calendar year. So let's say right now they submitted November the 19th. They have until December 31st to submit paid receipts on compost. I have seen it in other counties where their procurement agreement is set out at a kind of a fiscal year so that the direct service provider can submit the receipts during that time. Is that something that CalRecycle will allow, or is everything need to be on a prospective and not a retroactive when it comes to calendar fiscal years?
Yeah, so thank you for your question, Rhonda. I think we might have to look at your situation a little bit more closely, but in general, I can respond for, for direct service provider agreements, like you mentioned, they do have to be signed prospectively, and that's when this the procurement can start. I don't fully understand your description of your program through here, but I will follow up with you after the chat and we can discuss this further in detail if that's okay.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Arti, can I add one more comment on that?
Of course.
I just wanted to add, one thing I want to clarify is that direct service provider agreement could be signed just once. You don't have to re-up a DSP. There's no requirement that a direct service provider agreement be redone every certain period of time. So I did want to provide that clarity.
Thank you, Kara, for that. Back to you, Zach.
Perfect. Thank you, RT. We have our final question for this webinar. This question is coming from Ria Varghese. This question was directed at Judith. So Ria, go ahead and unmute yourself, please, and you can read that question out loud for us.
Hi, my name is Ria Varghese. I'm with the City of San Jose. My question was, does East Bay Mud charge RecycleSmart an additional fee to take credit for the electricity and heat that they count towards their procurement target?
That's a great question, and the answer is no, they do not.
All right, sounds like that was a straightforward one. Thank you, Judith. Okay, that about wraps up our Q&A for the afternoon. I'm going to pass it back to RT to wrap things up for us.
Awesome. Thank you. So that concludes this month's chat, and that was such an amazing chat. Thank you so much to all of our presenters and to all of the attendees. These chats would not be possible without all of you, and we really appreciate your participation. If you have any questions, recommendations, or suggestions for future chats, please send them to the SLCP inbox. Also, please sign up for our SB 1383 listserv if you've not done so already to receive updates on chats, resources, web pages, and more. Thank you all again so much. And now to Marshall for closing remarks.
Oh, fantastic. And thank you, RT. Thank you to all of our presenters, chat organizers, attendees. This is, we've wrapped up another incredibly informative chat with CalRecycle. This is the last chat for this calendar year. We will be planning another one in January. So as RT suggested, please keep the ideas coming for what you want to see discussed or have us vet out. And in the meantime, take care.